Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Thursday's Theology. My name is Jeff, and I am your host. And today we are going to be talking about my absolute favorite tenet of the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and that is we work in the darkness to serve the light. We work in the darkness to serve the light. Now, this one I actually really didn't have to prepare a lot for because Christians and assassins have the same exact goal in this statement. And I love it because when we talk about working in the darkness to serve the light, it is absolutely true for what Christians are called to be in this world. Now, the Gospel of John is probably my favorite gospel. There's four gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And John is particularly awesome because John uses a lot of imagery and metaphor of darkness and light. So John's gospel starts off by saying, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and a light came into the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. So even from the very beginning of John's gospel, he talks about this idea of light and dark, and Christ entering in as light into a dark and broken world. And he repeats that theme throughout the Gospel of John. He talks about light and dark. He talks about the differences between living in the darkness of sin and living in the light of who Christ is. Now, even the birth of Jesus is talked about in terms of light and dark as well, because think about when the shepherds are in the field at night. The Magi from the east see the star at night. So there's this idea of this great light coming into the darkness of the world, whether it be the star that the Magi followed or the heavenly hosts that appear with the glory of God around them, singing to the shepherds. So this idea of Christ being a light into the world is saturated in the birth narrative, because there's all these different areas where light comes into the darkness, where darkness should not, or where light should not be, in the middle of the night. I mean, even looking at the death of Jesus as well. The Gospels talk about how when Jesus dies on the cross, it's about noon, it's about midday. So it's a part of the day where sun is shining and there's nothing that should be dark, right? But the Gospels talk about when Jesus died, darkness descends. So all of a sudden, Christ dying, the light is being taken out of the world and darkness descends. So it's a beautiful metaphor that is used about this whole light and dark being present in the person of Christ, right? And then it made me think of Matthew chapter 5, again, Matthew being one of the Gospels, Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 through 16. And it says, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Sorry. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." So the idea here is that Jesus is saying that we are the light of the world. So our responsibility is to illuminate the darkness around us so that other people can see. Jesus says in Matthew 15 that a city on a hill, you can't hide a city on a hill. In fact, you can see it from miles away at night if the lights are on. If you have a light in the house, you don't take it and you put it under a bowl. Like that goes against the point of light. You put it on a stand so it gives light to everybody in the house. So Jesus is using that metaphor to tell us as the disciples, you are the light of the world. Your responsibility is to light up and illuminate the darkness around you so that others can be drawn to the light within you, and that light is Christ. So the idea that we are charged with being the light of the world, we work in the darkness to serve the light. So I think it's really, really cool that assassins and Christians share the same goal, because we live in a dark world. We live in a dark and broken and hurting world, and yet Christ is calling us to be light to the darkness, drawing people in, giving them direction and warmth, and ultimately pointing them to the true light in Christ. So as I was thinking through this whole episode, it was awesome because it almost wrote itself, because Christians and assassins pretty much share this goal in common. So that is a great thing. I like to think about that a lot. So yeah, I want to end by saying, just reiterating, Christians are called to be light in the dark. Jesus says, be the light of the world. You are the light of the world. Go and illuminate. So, yeah, that being said, I love the idea of Christians and assassins sharing the same goal, because when it comes down to it, we both, assassins and Christians, we both work in the darkness to serve the light for two very different reasons, but we share the same goal. But anyway, that is how that tenet of the Assassin's Brotherhood ties beautifully into the Gospel of John and the idea of light and dark and Christian theology. So thank you again for joining me this week for Thursday's Theology. My name is Jeff. I'm your host. And remember, theology doesn't always have to be difficult. It is simply the study of who God is. Take care. We'll see you next week.